Good morning. Happy Friday to you. We're going to begin today by multiplying fractions. So please open your packet to day 10 and have your materials ready. As usual, the first problem is an I do, and it reads, Carrie's macaroni recipe calls for 3/4 cups of noodles. Carrie wants to triple her recipe. How many cups of noodles will she need? First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to underline my big question. So I'm trying to figure out how many cups of noodles will she need for this recipe. I noticed that the word triple is here. So I'm going to box that word in because that's going to be important. And I know triple means 3 times. So when I see the word triple, I know it means 3 times. Also, the recipe calls for 3/4 cups of noodles. Okay. So again, my job is how many cups of noodles will she need? I know that the recipe calls for 3/4 cups, and I know she wants to triple that recipe. So I'm going to write 3/4, and if I'm tripling it, I'm going to multiply it by 3. I also need to know that I put a 1 under there when I have a whole number. So 3/1 is the same thing as 3 wholes. But when I'm multiplying fractions, I have to remember to put that 1 there because when I multiply fractions, I multiply numerator times numerator and denominator times denominator. So I'll pause right there and let you catch up. Okay, so let's begin. First thing we're going to do is going to multiply numerator times numerator. I know 3 times 3 equals 9. Then I'm going to multiply denominator 4 times the denominator of 1. 4 times 1 gives me 4. Now, when I look at this fraction, 9/4, I notice that my numerator is higher than my denominator. So that tells me that this is an improper fraction, meaning that my answer is going to be greater than 1 whole when I see this. There are several ways I can reduce this fraction because when I look at my answer choices are 9/12, 1 and 1/4, 2 and 1/4, 3 and 3/4. None of them say 9/4. So there's something additional that I need to do to this fraction. One thing I can do to solve, there are a couple of strategies. I can divide my denominator of 4 into my numerator of 9. I know 4 goes into 9 2 times. 2 times 4 gives me 8. And when I subtract, I have 1 left. The 1 that I have left, there's nothing else to bring down, becomes my numerator for my fraction. So here's the 1 left. It now becomes my numerator. The 4 that I have over here as my divisor is 4, now becomes my denominator. So the 4 that I have here goes here. The 1 that I had left over becomes my numerator. So my answer is 2 wholes and 1/4. So 9/4 is the same thing as 2 wholes and 1/4. That's one strategy for reducing. Another strategy I could have used is I could have used a number bond. So in my number bond, at the top I would put 9/4 because that was my answer. And this is just a second strategy. So I'm going to pause right there and let you catch up. Okay, so my second strategy to reduce 9/4 can be done using a number bond. Now, I know my denominator is 4 here. So within my number bond, everything has to have a 4. So what I'm going to do, I know with the number bond, I just add across what I have. So if I take 4 fours here, that leaves me with 5 fours. So I take another 4 fours, and that leaves me with 1 4 that I'll put in this part of the bond. So when I look, 4 fours plus 4 fours is 8 fours, plus 1 fourth is 9 fours. So all I've done was just taken my 9 fourths and broken it down. Now let's rely on what I know. 1 fourth over 1 fourth is the same as 1 whole. Again, 1 fourth over 1 fourth is the same as 1 whole. And then I have my fraction of 1 fourth. So if I add all that together, 1 fourth plus 1 fourth gives me, 1 whole plus 1 whole gives me 2 wholes plus 1 fourth. So again, I get the same answer. So no matter which strategy I use, my final answer ends up being 2 and 1 fourth. I'll pause and give you a chance to get caught up. So either strategy you may use. You just figure out what works best for you. This is a number. Okay, if you need additional time, just pause your video. Here's the completed work again, so if you need to see it in a different light. And there it is. Another thing you could have done was drawn yourself a picture of 9 fourths, and then you should be able to see the 2 and 1 fourths as well. So let's go back to that for 1 second. So let's go back here. So if I have 9 fourths, and I used a picture for it, I should be able to see 2 and 1 fourth. So let me show you that real quick. All right, so there's 1 that's been divided into fourths. And here's the second one. And then here's the third one. So this would be 1 fourth, 2 fourths, 3 fourths, 4 fourths. Remember, 4 is my denominator. That's how I know how many to put in there. 5 fourths, 6 fourths, 7 fourths, 8 fourths, and then 9 fourths. So when I look at my picture, then this would be 1 whole right here. And then this one is completely shaded, so this would be 1 whole. And then out of this third picture, only 1 fourth is shaded. So when I add them again, I get the 2 wholes and 1 fourth. So that's 3 strategies for that one problem. So you have to figure out what works best for you. Okay, I'll move on. Let's go to our next problem, which is a we do. And it reads, Bella used 1/4 of a pound of chocolate in each cake she baked. Bella baked 12 cakes. How many pounds of chocolate did she use? I'm going to pause for a minute and let you cue that problem. Okay. You should have underlined how many pounds of chocolate did she use. You should have circled. She used 1/4 for each cake. So one cake takes a 4 pound of chocolate, but she wants to bake 12 cakes. Okay. Your job is to figure out how many pounds of chocolate did she use after baking those 12 cakes. Well, I know each one took 1/4, and I'm going to times that by 12. 12 holes. Again, putting a 1 under my 12 to represent 12 holes because I'm multiplying. And I'll pause and let you get caught up. Again, when we start multiplying, we do in fractions, we multiply numerator times numerator. 1 times 12 equals 12. Denominator times denominator, 4 times 1 equals 4. So again, we're here with an improper fraction because our numerator of 12 is greater than our denominator of 4. So that makes this an improper fraction, which means it's going to be at least 1 whole. Now, a few minutes ago, I showed you 2 or 3 strategies you can use. We're going to use some of the same strategies to solve this problem. Because when I look over here at my answer choices, I don't see 12 fourths. I see 3 pounds, 3 and 1/4 pound, 4 pounds, and 4 and 1/4 pounds. So I know these are going to be greater than a whole when I get my answer just from looking at my answer choices. So the first thing I can do is I can divide my denominator 4 into 12. And if I skip count my fours, I know if I get 4, 8, 12, that's 3 times. 3 times 4 gives me 12. And I subtract, and my answer is 0 here. So my answer would be 3 wholes. That's one way to complete that problem. We can take that same problem, and this time we're going to use a different strategy. So we have the 12 fourths as our final answer. So we put it in a number bond. We have 12 fourths at the top. And remember, our denominator is 4. So everything must be in fourths. So 4 fourths that leaves us with 8 fourths. Let's do another 4 fourths. That leaves us with 4 fourths. And do another 4 fourths. And remember, your denominator has to be 4. So that's 4 fourths plus 4 fourths plus 4 fourths gives us 12 fourths. Well, I know 4 over 4 is 1 whole. 4 over 4 is 1 whole. 4 over 4 is 1 whole. Okay, and 1 plus 1 equals 3. So again, I get 3 wholes as my answer. So my answer would be A. The last and final way I could have done this, again, I could have drawn some pictures of 12 fourths. So my answer ended up being 12 fourths. So I draw my rectangle and divide it into fourths. Okay, so let's count my fourths. 1/4, that's 2 fourths. 3/4, 4/4, 5/4, 6/4, 7/4, 8/4. Need to draw some more because I need 12. And remember, I'm dividing them into fours because my denominator is 4. So I was at 8/4. This makes 9, 10/4, 11/4. There's my 12/4. Now, what do I have shaded? I have one whole picture shaded here, one whole picture shaded here, and one whole picture shaded here. 1 plus 1 plus 1 gives me 3 again. So my answer would be 3 wholes again. So no matter which strategy you use, you still get the same answer. Okay. So I'll pause and let you get that down. And if you need additional time, you can just pause the video. Okay. So our final video reads, Mrs. Davis gave each of her 3 children 1/2 cup of yogurt for snack. How many total cups of yogurt did she give the children? Okay, I'll pause and let you cue. Okay, so you should have underlined how many total cups of yogurt did she give the children. All right, so let's box in total because remember we've been saying total can either mean add or multiply. Let's see what's given. I know Miss Davis had 3 children and she gave each child 1/2 cup. I'll pause for a minute, let you catch up, and you also set your problem up. Write your equation on how we're going to solve it. Okay, you should have written 1/2 times 3 over 1. And again, we multiply numerator times numerator. 1 times 3 equals 3. 2 times 1 equals 2. Now let's look at our answer. Again, we have an improper fraction because our numerator of 3 is greater than our denominator of 2, which tells me that my answer when I reduce this is going to be greater than 1 whole. So let's see what we have. One way we can do this is that we can divide denominator of 2 into the numerator of 3. Okay. 2 goes into 3 one time. 1 times 2 is 2. Now I subtract. 3 minus 2 equals 1. 1 is less than my 2. I still have 1 left over, so I'm going to take this 1, and this 1 will become my numerator for my fraction right here. This 2 as my divisor will become my denominator. So my answer is 1 and 1/2. 3/2 is the same as 1 and 1/2. All right, let's go over our other 2 strategies for this problem. Here's a second strategy in case that one doesn't work for you. Here's another way I can reduce 3/2. I can take my 3/2 and put it in a number bond. Remember, my denominator in this problem is 2. So 2 over 2. So 2 over 2 from that 3, 2 leaves me with 1/2. So when I add 2 over 2 plus 1 over 2, so 2/2 plus 1/2 gives me 3/2. That's how I break it down. So when I look at what I have, I know 2/2 is the same as 1 whole plus the 1/2 I have gives me 1 and 1/2. Okay? So either strategy could work. Okay. Now, our last resort would be to draw pictures. Again, our denominator is half. So I have to draw everything in 2 parts. Everything has to be divided into 2 because my denominator is 2. So I'm trying to show 3/2. So I'm going to color in 3/2. There's 1/2 colored in. Here's another half. So there's the 1/2. Here's another half. And then I'm going to color that in. Okay? So there's my 3/2. But when I look at the whole picture here, this whole picture, that's 1 whole. 1/2 plus 1/2 equals 1 whole. And then I have that 1/2. So either way I do it, it works. I'll take a moment and pause and let you get what I have. If you need additional time, you just stop your video. So these are your 3 strategies. Your answer ends up being 1 and 1/2, which is over here, which would be B. So here's one way we could do it. Divide 2 into 3 and get the 1/2. Here's a second way. We can use a number bond where we break down our halves. 2/2 plus the 1/2 gives me the 3/2. And that's how I got that answer there. Or I can draw a picture of 3/2 and still get the same answer. So you have to decide which strategy works best for you. And that's the one you will use. Okay, your final problems are you do's, and they're just that. They are problems that you do. Please make sure you put your answers on your paper first, then go to Kahoots and put your answers in Kahoots. And remember, please only do your name. Please put in your first and last, the first initial of your last name, and make sure you only do Kahoots one time. You guys have a great weekend, and I'll see you on Monday.